Child, you won't believe this. An HOA president, yes, the one in charge of the whole neighborhood, dragged a naked girl out of a shower using a fake badge. And they thought no one was watching. Honey, that's just the beginning. The language in my initial report was precise, almost surgical, the kind prosecutors favor. I didn't call Glenna's actions aggressive. I labeled them invasive physical contact with a vulnerable minor, a trauma trigger consistent with CPTSD relapse. We weren't just noting incidents anymore, we were building a prosecution. I sent the complaint straight to the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, naming Glen Varick and Harthridge Hollow HOA as liable for ADA violations, impersonation of authority, unlawful detention, and assault on a minor. Then I called Marissa at the U.S. Marshals DOJ Liaison Office. You're telling me an HOA president dragged a naked girl out of a shower stall using a fake badge? She asked flatly. I confirmed, adding we had the video. The silence on the line was heavy. Then we'll pull the thread, she said. That's how it starts quietly. A single voice in D.C. triggering a chain that can't be stopped. Hours later, a private number pinged Malik. We hadn't spoken since the HOA office incident. He wanted to meet. One suggested a neutral spot south tennis court. Levin hesitated. What if it's a trap? It's not, I said. Malik had been weakening for weeks. Glenna was rushing, trying to act before her empire collapsed. At the meeting, Malik dropped the bombshell. She forged vote records, bribed vendors for laminating equipment and fake seals, and misused discretionary HOA funds to fund her fake authority. I didn't need his receipts in hand, just the directions, the sources, and the trail. Every fraudulent transaction tied back to her. She wasn't just impersonating authority. She was weaponizing HOA governance and financial loopholes against anyone who questioned her. Back home, sleep was impossible. Not anger, not fear, just the eerie stillness before action. At 4:42 a.m., Yara screamed. The dream had returned. I rushed to her side. Her towel was damp, her hands trembling. Levin calmed her while I realized Glenna hadn't just hurt her. She'd shattered her sense of safety. That night, I contacted an old ally, Assistant Regional Prosecutor Miles Tenner, an expert in HOA law. I sent him everything. No explanation. Just, it's time. By morning, the DOJ had already acknowledged the case. Agents Rivera and Clay would arrive for interviews. I secured the physical and digital evidence binder, drives, cloud backups. Transparency and redundancy weren't paranoia, they were survival. The AOA wasn't going to see it coming. That evening, Yara painted again. A small turtle, steady brush. She didn't ask about Glenna and didn't ask about the investigation. Just the turtle. The first sign of recovery. But I knew the real reckoning was about to begin, and Glenna? She was preparing her own public display, completely unaware that the law was already watching her every move. What happens when fear meets truth? The answer is coming, and it won't be quiet. That evening, I walked the property with Levin, measuring sight lines and photographing every angle. We installed motion lights and privacy boards not to hide, but to document. Every inch of the yard, every corner of the cedar stall, became part of our evidence chain. Later, a secure email from the DOJ arrived. They wanted an in-person transfer of evidence. They had already reviewed the footage and were opening a full INVSTIGATIONI, began building a full digital archive, encrypted flash drives, cloud backups under burner accounts, redundant folders, and chain of custody logs. If Glenna tried to challenge evidence tampering, she'd lose before she even opened her mouth. Ken, the neighbor who captured the stall incident, agreed to testify. Malik's intel filled the gaps in the timeline: unauthorized purchases, forged resolutions, and financial manipulation. Glenna's empire of fear wasn't just fragile, it was paper-thin. 3 nights later, I met Malik again near the maintenance shed. His eyes were darker, his fingers jittering. She's planning something, he whispered. Making an example of your family. I pocketed the vendor list and nodded. The DOJ already had the complaint, the evidence, and the official chain. Glenna's attempts to intimidate or hide her tracks were obsolete. The next morning, I drove Yara to her first therapy session since the assault. She didn't ask about Glenna or the meeting. She just asked if we could paint more turtles. I didn't speak. I nodded. Progress was measured in small moments, not dramatic gestures. Meanwhile, Glenna plotted a community truth forum inviting the press, hoping to spin the narrative before federal agents could intervene. I printed a press-ready binder identical to the DOJ one, filled with time-stamped evidence, photos, and receipts. If she wanted a stage, we'd give her the lights and the truth. The night before the meeting, Yara painted another turtle, her hand steady for the first time in weeks. The cedar stall, once a place of fear, became a canvas for resilience. It was a small, deliberate act, reclaiming safety, asserting control over her own world. Glenna had built authority on fear, but we were building ours on care and transparency. The morning of the forum, I entered the HOA common room 10 minutes early, binder under one arm, DOJ visitor badge pinned to my chest. Glenna froze when she saw me, her lips pressed flat. Residents arrived, some hesitant, some curious. The young board secretary, Ellis, hovered nervously. I didn't greet Glenna. I didn't smile. I just waited. As Glenna began to speak. Twisting the story to her favor, I opened the binder. Page by page, the fake badge, Yara's affidavit, receipts for fraudulent purchases, and forged resolutions. Her lies crumbled silently. She stepped down, trembling, and left. No applause, no confrontation. Just the quiet collapse of a reign, built on fear. But Glenna's departure was only the beginning. Federal subpoenas, indictments, and restitution were still ahead. And for a family who had lived under terror, the true test of justice had just begun. The next morning, a black SUV with federal plates pulled into the driveway. Just past 9 a.m., Rivera and Clay stepped out, professional, calm, and sharp-eyed. They didn't waste time. Triplicate hard copies? Rivera asked. Yes, digital drives labeled and hash verified. Originals intact, I replied. Levin slid over flash drives, and together we began reviewing the evidence with the agents, financial. Tracing started immediately. The vendor accounts Malik had documented were tied to a fake HOA subcommittee, non-existent in any official records. Printers, laminating machines, and seal supplies, all purchased under the guise of community safety, were flagged. Yara's therapy documents, affidavits, and official ADA notices were handed over. Everything was cataloged, time-stamped, and synchronized. By late morning, subpoenas for the full HOA, board's financial records, and digital logs were prepared. Glenna's devices were set for forensic extraction. Every word she had recorded publicly was transcribed, clipped, and aligned with the evidence. Rivera and Clay confirmed Yara would be interviewed in a secure, separate room. She's ready, I said. And she won't be alone. For the first time in weeks, I felt like the law wasn't just coming, it had arrived inside the HOA office. Glenna called an emergency board meeting. Only 2 members attended. She waved photos, accused digital tampering, and claimed her badge was a prototype. She almost sounded convincing until Rivera walked in. Glenna recognized him instantly. Her posture stiffened. The room froze. Miss Varick, Rivera said calmly, this office is under federal investigation. Step aside. Boxes of hard drives and documents were collected. She was officially notified of impersonation, misuse of funds, ADA violations, and child endangerment charges. Ellis and the board members were stunned. Glenna's reign of fear evaporated quietly in that moment, not because someone confronted her, but because the truth outweighed her lies. By sunset, news had spread through Harthridge Hollow, not by newsletter, not by announcements, but quietly, neighbor to neighbor. The power she had wielded was gone. Residents began quietly reconnecting. The cedar stall, once a symbol of terror, was reclaimed. Yara painted with care, adding turtles, coral, and even a whale across the back panel. The Reef, she named it, a world of safety and imagination. Levin installed a new latch, smooth and secure. Feel safer now? He asked. It is. Safety isn't the absence of danger, it's accountability. Neighbors joined in, helping form a volunteer association for Maintenance and community. Events that is transparent, public, and fair. Glenna was indicted, restitution was being processed, and the HOA board was frozen pending federal review. Fear no longer dictated the rules. Community and truth did that evening. As rain lightly fell over the freshly painted stall, I watched Yara sketch, calm and safe. The nightmare had ended, but the lessons endured. Always record. Always stand up and never let silence. Empower the wrong if you want more stories that expose hidden truths. Inspire action and show the power of standing up. Subscribe, like, and share. Every story reminds us that accountability is stronger than fear, and together we can shine a light on what others try to bury.